Hello, hello. How are we doing? Welcome back. Welcome back. Come on in. Take a seat. Brazilian Grand Prix qualifying is ahead of us post Brazilian sprint race. Why can I not get this to go to the height that I want it to be? Come here. There we go. Almost. Give it a little. There we go. That'll do. That'll do for now. How are we all feeling post sprint race? I feel like, I know it's only 8 points for Lando Norris. It's not the end of the world, but it does feel like a big moment, doesn't it? Does feel like a big moment in the championship once again. And it's a big moment that once more goes against Oscar Piastri, isn't it? Overall. Let me just double check we're actually alive in all the right places. Yes, we are indeed. Beautiful. Chat on is indeed. We're there. Loving it. Oscar needs to lock in. I mean, yes. I think that's an understatement, if anything, to be honest. He needs a miracle at this point. He needs something to really, really go in his favor, because he just can't seem to bounce back at the minute. Just cannot seem to find any kind of momentum inside of that McLaren car. And I know, you know, we can kind of keep saying, oh, it's been a few races. Oh, he was still, you know, on the podium in X, Y, or Z. He still won the Grand Prix in Zandvoort, etc., etc., etc. We can say, oh, it's only 9 points. But you've got to remember, after Zandvoort, the 5 races that we've had, nearly, you know, well, I suppose 6, including sprint race in Austin that I forgot. Now 6, including the sprint race in Brazil. Like, it is starting to show. And he is falling away quickly. You know, it was a huge win in Zandvoort. 25 points to Piastri, 0 to Lando Norris. It felt like the championship was falling in Oscar Piastri's lap, didn't it? But it does feel like the complete opposite now. It does just feel like since Zandvoort, since Monza, maybe, I guess he was on the podium in Monza. So maybe since Monza, the momentum just hasn't been there. And every single thing he does just seems like it works against him rather than for him. And feels like it doesn't work. We're just getting to a point in the season where there's not enough time left, right? There's not enough time for him to rebound. There isn't a break. He's not going to have a couple of weeks to reset. It is one race weekend after the next race weekend, double header of Mexico and Austin, then just 1 week to Brazil, and it's a sprint as well, and then just one more week, and then it's a triple header to end the season. Like, it is a heavy amount of races, and there's no time to breathe or reset or rethink how it is going. It is all in to the end of the season, which from a viewer's perspective, from our perspective, is brilliant, because we get to see that fight to the end of the season, like quick fire, rapid race after race after race. And that is how a season should end, I think. You want to see the sprint races now where they mean more. You want to see the races kind of back to back to back, quick fire, so that we can see this championship unfold quickly, and it builds the tension and allows us to kind of see it happening in real time, as opposed to like if there was a 3-week gap, say, between now and Vegas. You know, the momentum of the championship battle kind of loses out a little bit, doesn't it? But I don't know. Just does feel like this Oscar is not the Oscar of earlier on in the season. This Oscar is not the Oscar of pre-summer break. This Oscar is not the Oscar that is capable of winning the world championship. You've got to keep that level of performance. You've got to be championship level performance throughout the entire season. It's why it's 24 Grand Prix. It's not one after 12. It's not one after 15. It is all the way through. Every single race matters. Every single race counts. And I do feel sorry for Oscar. I do really feel sorry for Oscar. But let's talk about the sprint race then and have a little chat about what happened in it. Have I got the race board? I have. Oh, sorry. Didn't mean to get rid of the chat. Lando Norris did indeed take the victory. 8 points on the board for the championship leader. Now a 9-point gap to his teammate just behind. Kimi Antonelli remained second best. Almost felt like Antonelli was going to put Lando Norris under a tiny little bit of pressure there towards the end. The medium tyres maybe being able to hold on that little bit longer than the McLaren in Lando Norris's soft compound tyres, but wasn't quite able to do it. Lando Norris with some good defensive positioning and also the ability to use that clean air in front of him, particularly in that middle sector, to just build up enough of a gap to Kimi Antonelli behind. It was 8, 9 tenths, wasn't it, as they came around turn 12 often, and therefore by the time they got to turn 1, Kimi Antonelli was still half a second or so behind, and then couldn't quite gather that momentum. You kind of need to be within 2 or 3 tenths going into turn 3 so that you can launch yourself down in towards turn 4, and Antonelli never quite that close. George Russell left for dead a little bit by Kimi Antonelli. It was a sublime drive by the Mercedes driver in front. And George Russell had a little look at his teammate on the restart just after the safety car pulled into the pit lane, but still wasn't able to move past the Italian. And like we saw in Mexico, Antonelli leading his teammate, Russell not quite having the pace to get past. Didn't see the radio messages, but I'm assuming he didn't do the same thing this time around, where he was, just begging Mercedes effectively. I was trying to find the right word. I think he is begging to go past his teammate. Ooh, GameStar, thank you for the super chat. Angry Max is best Max. Cool and calm Piastri is best Piastri. Happy Lando is best Lando. Hope we get all 3 in this race. I mean, Lando Norris is certainly going to be very happy indeed with how the last few races have played out, particularly with Oscar crashing out and giving him a few more points advantage than he was expecting. Oscar was running third, would have been 6 points for Oscar. So it would have only been 2 points gained for Lando Norris. He'd have been 3 ahead in the championship rather than 9, which at this stage in the season means a lot. 9 points is a first or second place. So now Oscar Piastri can go on and win, let's say Vegas or Qatar, and Lando Norris can come second and still the points won't swing in Oscar Piastri's favor. He's got that win to second place margin locked in, and another couple of points if he can do it in the Brazil race. He's then outside of the range where Oscar Piastri can win and Lando Norris only has to come third and still, again, won't lose the momentum or lose that position in the championship. So he's just building up a nice little gap now, is Lando Norris. And 3 points versus 9 points is a huge difference when it comes to those top-end points that you can score for being on the podium and winning Grand Prix. 3 points is only the difference between third and fourth. Say 9 points is the difference between first and third. It's a huge gap. Or third and if Oscar Piastri comes third in a race, then Lando Norris can still come sixth and still be within that kind of 9-point margin that he's built himself. So it's huge. But yeah, Angry Max most certainly. I feel like he'll have the bit between his teeth. I think he was expecting a little bit more coming into this weekend. The weather hasn't played in his favor. A lot of talk about wet weather racing. It sort of rained in between and around the sessions, but never quite in the right place for Max Verstappen, particularly this morning. It rained just before we had the sprint race and then just after the sprint race as well. And it's now dried up before qualifying again. So it's like It's never quite played into Max Verstappen's favor, and the rain has never quite come at the right time. I reckon he'll be very, very angry going into this qualifying session. And then cool and calm Piastri. I don't know how he can find that cool and calm, if I'm honest with you. I think, you know, when you finish, well, didn't finish, but he's down in 19th place in the rankings from the sprint race earlier today. I don't know how you collect yourself. He's only had a couple of hours. You know, he's probably looking at the data, going over it with the team, discussing it. You don't really get that time to go and cool off and reset yourself, you know, let alone between sprint race and qualifying. Even between races now, like, they're going to be all action. You're going from Brazil, probably straight back to the factory. Takes a little while to get back there. Then you don't really get the time at home because there's so much to sort out before you then have to fly back out to Vegas and adapt to the Vegas time zone. Like, there's not a break really for Oscar Piastri here. So I think you're right. Happy Lando. Lando's certainly happy. Max angry. Max will certainly be angry. I just don't think Oscar can be cool and calm anymore. And that is when he's at his best. And unfortunately, I don't think that's the Piastri that we're going to see in the final, well, 4 weekends that we've got left. When does qualifying start? We're about 40 minutes out from the start of qualifying. Am I British? Yes. Will we see rain in quali? No, I don't think so. It's looking very blue and very clear skied in Brazil now. It rained literally like right after the sprint race. Right. Very, very close to the end of the sprint race. Rained again. And then now it's stopped. Looks completely dry. The track looks completely dry as well. It's fully rained. Rained off. Lando has a really nice advantage this qualifying as he's just won the sprint. Yeah, most certainly. Most certainly. And he's got the confidence, right? He was on pole position yesterday. It was a fairly comfortable pole position, especially considering, you know, Antonelli was second, his championship rival third. So he knows he's got a little bit of leeway, and he knows that the Mercedes are kind of in the mix. So Lando Norris not only can rely on the fact that, you know, he was the quickest car in qualifying yesterday and won the sprint, but he can also now rely on the fact that the Mercedes cars are in the mix. So, you know, Verstappen isn't guaranteed a podium. Piastri's not guaranteed a podium just for finishing. They will have to actually out-qualify and out-race the two Mercedes cars. And that's the other thing, right? When Mercedes are in the mix or Ferrari are in the mix, whoever's leading the championship, that actually really does play into their favor, because you're just going to, okay, yes, Lando Norris might lose points, but say Antonelli wins or George Russell wins and Antonelli comes second or third, we're looking at then, you know, that's points taken away from not just Lando, but also from Piastri and also from Verstappen. So it's kind of fine in terms of the championship lead for Lando Norris. It's only a problem if he doesn't win and Max Verstappen wins, or if he doesn't win and Piastri wins. If he doesn't win and George Russell wins, he's not going to be that bothered about it. Like, if he doesn't win and Antonelli wins, it's fine. As long as it is not one of those championship rivals, and when Mercedes are in the mix, that plays into Lando Norris's hands, in my opinion. Oh, good question. Has it ended? No. But Bortoletto crash looked very bad, yeah. Was the thing that pointed out. It was pretty horrendous. Like, it's one of the bigger crashes that we've had probably since Brazil last year, where we also had some pretty heavy crashes in that kind of mixed conditions. Remember Alex Albon with a huge crash last time out in Brazil. Franco Colapinto in the other Williams, also a really big crash at the beginning of his sort of, or towards the middle, of the Brazilian Grand Prix last year. So big crash for Bortoleto. If you didn't see it, going down the pit straight on the right-hand side of the track, completely loses the car as he looks to the inside line of Alex Albon ahead of him. Actually hits the wall on the inside of the track, so hits the pit wall effectively. Obviously, right towards the end of the pit straight, almost as you enter turn 1, but was carrying a lot of speed and a lot of momentum. Would have had the DRS open. You know, is basically at top speed there. Gabriel Bortoleto hits the wall on the inside and then just gets spun out. Like, as soon as he hits the wall on the inside, he's got absolutely no control over the car whatsoever, and a huge crash. Then almost catches Alex Albon. The debris of Gabriel Bortoleto's car showering Alex Albon as he goes just past, and then he ends up actually hitting the barriers as well on the outside of turn 1. So huge shunt. And yeah, Gabriel Bortoleto, I think it was Jonathan Wheatley as opposed to Matteo Binotto. It was one of the two. I think it was Jonathan Wheatley, you know, praising the safety in Formula One that there is right now, and the fact that Gabriel Bortoleto came out of that car and walked away pretty much unscathed. I'm sure he's bruised and battered a little bit. I'm sure he's going to get in bed and possibly feel that in his back tomorrow. But overall, you know, the fact that he walked away from that incident and didn't even really need the medical car. The medical car obviously went out there because it would have triggered all of the alarm systems that mean the medical car goes out automatically. But he actually probably could have just walked back into the pits. Like, that is absolutely crazy. Did they say how many Gs yet? Oh, I don't know if they did, actually. Should I have a little check? I didn't see it. I was looking at a couple of bits and pieces whilst eating dinner between the two sessions. I don't think they have said where is Bortoleto. No, it doesn't say how many Gs, just a big shunt from the things that I can see here. Unless it's on the race. Let me check the race. They're usually pretty swift. Honestly, thought he would have flipped. I mean, his car did leave the surface. But luckily, yeah, it didn't actually rotate over. Although if you watch the onboard, like, the only thing keeping the wheel of his car actually inside of the cockpit is the halo. Like, he really is holding on for dear life at that point. Like, he's still holding on to the wheel, but there is nothing that wheel is connected to, unfortunately, for Gabriel Bortoleto. And a shame, because obviously it's his home Grand Prix. First home Grand Prix as a rookie. He's had a really good season, Gabriel Bortoleto. I think maybe going under the radar a tiny bit. When I talk to most people, and maybe this is just the kind of circles that I'm in, when I talk to people mainly about the rookies this year, a lot of people do praise Hadjar, Behrman, even Antonelli more so than Gabriel Bortoleto. But I don't know, I just feel like Gabriel Bortoleto, if I was going to choose one of the rookies right now who I think has everything he needs to be a world champion, I'd probably pick Bortoleto over the rest. I know that, you know, they're all very young and there's still a long way to go. Luckily, his steering broke instead of his wrist. Yeah, you could put it that way. Yeah, Reeds, that's very true. But I just think, yeah, of all the rookies, and I know Kimi Antonelli's a little bit younger and has had, well, I mean, Gabriel Bortoleto won F3, but Kimi Antonelli didn't even take part in F3. And then Gabriel Bortoleto then won F2, and Antonelli was a rookie in that season, although Bortoleto was a rookie as well, but a little bit older of a rookie. So Antonelli's kind of in a little bit of a zone of his own, even though he's in the 5 rookies this season. I don't know. I just think Bortoleto has something that the other drivers don't. I think it's that kind of like intangible part of Gabriel Bortoleto that can't be really taught as such. Just has an instinct, a feeling. I suppose the only issue that he's got is he's relying on Audi to deliver him a car that will be able to win championships, whereas you'd argue Behrman going into Ferrari, or Kimi Antonelli if he stays with Mercedes, or Hadjar going into Red Bull. They're already sort of established big teams. You're going into one of the top 4 teams, one of what used to be the top 3 before McLaren sort of moved into it. You know, a lot of seasons in recent past, it has been Ferrari, Mercedes, Red Bull, the clear fastest 3 teams, and usually first, second, third in the Constructors' Championship. Of course, there are a few seasons where that hasn't happened. Ferrari have dropped the ball, or, well, actually, yeah, Ferrari have dropped the ball. It's usually Mercedes and Red Bull, isn't it? Like, throughout the last 15 years, maybe even longer, it's been Ferrari, it's been a Mercedes or Red Bull, sort of first, second, third in the championship, guaranteed. Whereas, yeah, Bortoleto has to rely on Sauber and Audi kind of getting it right, and then stepping up and maybe getting a move. Maybe if Max Verstappen were to leave Red Bull, and that's kind of being talked about a lot, I feel like Bortoleto wouldn't be a bad choice. Bortoleto certainly would be able to use a little bit of Max's knowledge as well. Max Verstappen and Gabriel, very, very good friends. Maybe then Max would put in a good word. Oscar has to win for me and his Indian fans. Don't know what to say. He's having a tough weekend once more. Hasn't started yet. No, we're not quite there yet. We were just walking our way down the grid, but then started talking about Gabriel Bortoleto's crash. But as soon as you get me started about Gabriel Bortoleto, I then also have to talk about how very, very good he is. I think he is one of the best drivers on the grid right now. And he's a rookie. Like, he is he's got everything for me. Got everything he needs. Do I think Lando did it unintentionally or did it intentionally? What? Put a little bit of spray onto the track? No. You cannot blame Oscar Piastri's crash on Lando Norris. Like, that is insane. That would be absolutely insane. Do I think Lando can win the title? I mean, I don't want to be that guy, but I have said Lando Norris since the beginning of the season. I've always backed him. I've always said that this year is going to be his year. In all the prediction videos, I've backed Lando. Even in my video where I did the 1,000 simulations of the second half of the season, it came out as Lando Norris on top. Am I one to argue with the data? You know, I have always backed Lando Norris. Even after he lost those points in Zandvoort, I didn't think it was over. I think you've got to back him to be able to come back from that. And he certainly has. Lando's going to win. These tin hat wearing conspiracy theories are crazy. Yeah, I didn't realize that was even a discussion point. Lando Norris purposefully sending some spray towards Oscar Piastri. He can't really do that. Like, he wouldn't know how that would have played out. Heard São Paulo is not a fan favorite. Oh, it is. We did a video on Crash Happy this week. In fact, I don't know how it's actually... Oh, no, I can't check it because I'm live on my own channel. How did the Crash Happy video do this week? I think it got like 10k views, so it's well worth a watch. Is the Crash Happy pod from this week. And we literally discussed our greatest or our favorite circuits on the calendar. And I think everybody had Brazil in their top 10. Like, literally all 4 of us were like, yep, Brazil goes in. And it was towards the end of the season. And it was a sprint weekend for the majority of us. It just works. It's the best track on the calendar. Period. Just always is. Who else DNF'd? Bortoleto, Piastri, and Colapinto were the 3 drivers that DNF'd from the Grand Prix. We didn't talk about Max Verstappen, though. We got to Antonelli and Russell, and then we kind of stopped. How do we feel about Max Verstappen? A 4th place finish. It's not horrendous. Could certainly have been worse for Max Verstappen. I think, actually, considering that the RB21 is not Max's favorite thing to drive this weekend, certainly doesn't feel super comfortable in it. Can Merc pull off due to cold weather? Is heating up, though, right now. It's getting a little bit warmer because the rain has stopped and the clouds have gone. So, don't know how much warmer it'll get, but we've still got half an hour or so of the sun beating down on the track. So, yeah, that might not actually help out George Russell and Kimi Antonelli much, which could play into the favor of Max Verstappen, because the fact that he was able to gain on Alonso, then also gained on Piastri with his DNF. You know, a 6th place would have been pretty terrible. A 4th place is better. Still not perfect. Moves into 39 points behind Lando Norris at the top of the standings. And he does have a, what is it, a grid penalty? Is it 5th place? I think it's a 5th place grid penalty for taking a power unit change this weekend. So needs something a little bit special in qualifying here, but can certainly take away some positives. And if Mercedes aren't quite as quick in the full qualifying session, because it is a little bit warmer, because it's a little bit later on in the day, and also it looks a little bit sunnier than it was in the sprint the sprint race earlier on today. So Max Verstappen has a 5-place grid penalty, does he not? Am I making that up? Let me check it. For Brazil. Max Verstappen, grid penalty for Brazil. Did I make that up, or have I made that up? Was it last year? Have I lost my mind? It's on the Formula One shorts page. Maybe I saw it there. Or was this from a year ago? Yeah, he does. Good. Yeah. Just thought I'd double check it. Extra engine. Yeah, he took an extra power unit, or an ICE, I should say, for this weekend. So it has a 5-place grid penalty. Last year he started from P17. Very true. Like, I'm not saying that just because he's got a 5-place grid penalty, he's guaranteed to not have it, but have I lost my mind? Was that last year? Goodness gracious. I thought he took it this year as well. Now we're all fighting. Max Verstappen, grid penalty for Brazil. 2024? Oh, no, it was 2024. Yeah, I've absolutely lost my mind. Not sure where I got that information from or what I was thinking. Yeah, I can't find it now either. I swear I saw something about it this year. I'm making things up. Maybe I saw it. Maybe I saw a post about it from last year, but it came up this year. I don't know. I was promised rain. Rain more likely tomorrow. Rain more likely tomorrow. It was always more likely tomorrow than today. So if you are looking for a wet race, more likely than a wet qualifying. Yeah, I think Max Verstappen actually coming 4th in the conditions how they were, I think is not too bad at all. I think can certainly take a couple of positives from that. Okay, it's not where I want to be, and it's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but it's more points than he was maybe expecting, considering where he started and the fact that he got. James didn't need a break. Take a 1-year-old noose. I do. I think the end of the season is near. Can you tell? It's been a long season. I've had to move house partway through it and move jobs. But yeah, no penalty. No penalty for Max Verstappen, as I can see. As we kind of move down, Leclerc and Alonso, a little bit of a battle. Shame that we didn't get to see the overtake on the coverage live. We saw it after the fact. Leclerc actually a really nice move. Had to bide his time, had to wait for those tyres to finally fall off a cliff for Fernando Alonso. Alonso doing very good job, actually, at defending in that Aston Martin. Not that we should be surprised, to be honest, of Fernando Alonso doing a good job defending in that Aston Martin. Hi, James. Why weren't you on the Wreckfest video from Crash Happy? Great question. I just was not available the evening that they recorded it. Can't remember where I was. I think I had a training day or something at work. But yeah, I can't remember. Good video though. I enjoyed it. I got to watch it as a person, the spectator, rather than somebody who was in it. I think Pulse edited it as well, so I literally had not seen any of it before it came out yesterday. Also worth watching, you know. If you haven't seen the podcast from this week, go over to Crash Happy, watch that. If you haven't watched the Wreckfest video that came out yesterday, if you haven't watched my video from a couple of days ago, you know, there's a lot of things you should be watching on this YouTube. We're putting out content over it. What team do I support? I am a McLaren supporter. But yeah, Leclerc took a little while for him to get past. Certainly not the way that Charles Leclerc would have wanted to have made that move, but Alonso is always going to be a canny operator to try and get past. And then with the reset tyres after the red flag, where everyone got to reset and kind of change their tyres around if they wanted to, it was always going to be tough for Leclerc to get past. Managed to, though. An extra point on the board. Ferrari car looking the worst of the top four, though, isn't it? I think it's become a little bit of a rolling pattern at this point where Ferrari and Mercedes generally seem to be able to turn up to some events, be competitive in a sense. They never really look like winning Grand Prix, but they certainly have got the capability of getting podiums and stuff up to a point. And then they have other weekends where it just all falls apart, doesn't it? And yeah, Antonelli, Russell, the beneficiaries of it this weekend. Leclerc and Hamilton falling behind. Be interesting to see how that Constructors' Championship plays out between the two of them, though. Very, very close between those two as to how and who will come second in the Constructors. I think there's about $20 million on the line for finishing sort of second versus third versus fourth. So well worth finishing there. Like big money to be won. I know we sort of say, oh, they won't really care that much about finishing second or finishing third, but I think the teams do. Like, I think we kind of don't as fans, but I think the teams really do care about where they finish in the constructor standings, because it also plays into things like money that they can ask for from sponsors. You know, you can be like, look, you are sponsoring the second best team on the grid, or you are sponsoring the third best team on the grid. So it's a selling point, because all the teams need sponsors. That's why the teams towards the back end of the grid do struggle, because they have to go, you are sponsoring us, but it is supporting you're sponsoring the ninth best team on the grid. You know, you're not going to really be in the picture that often, and you're not going to see our car on the TV screens overly throughout the weekend. Why is no one talking about Hamilton's perfect sprint start? Literally overtook 3 cars. Yeah, it was great, wasn't it? Really, really good. Kind of benefited from the fact that Lance Stroll had a really, really poor start, because Lance Stroll had a poor start. And then what happened was Isaac Hadjar kind of got caught up behind that. Lance Stroll then jogged over to the left-hand side of the track where he kind of positioned himself in front of, I want to say, Nico Hülkenberg. Yeah, it was Hülkenberg, wasn't it? So Stroll comes across, kind of covers off Nico Hülkenberg because Hülkenberg gets a better start. Hadjar then kind of caught in two minds, can't go left because Hülkenberg is there. And Hamilton just takes advantage of this because Stroll started slowly and Hadjar then also had to sort of brake before he hit into the back of Lance Stroll's Aston Martin. Hamilton got away really well and around the outside, and therefore Hadjar had nowhere to go, so he had to sort of fight with Hülkenberg. Lance Stroll was going slowly. Lovely swoop around the outside from Lewis Hamilton, like well worth going back and watching if you didn't see it. But Hamilton lands straight up into the points, like from 11th straight up into 8th, and then was able to turn that into 7th, of course, with Oscar Piastri dropping out of the Grand Prix. Wasn't quite able to get past Alonso as well, but it took Leclerc long enough, right? So Hamilton just kind of had to wait for Leclerc to get past and then maybe have a go. Just by that point, the tyres had gone a little bit and didn't have enough laps left in the sprint race to be able to go for a move on Fernando Alonso in the way that he would have wanted to. So brilliant move, though, from Hamilton. A really, really good shout. I just think that, again, Ferrari are the slowest of the top cars and, you know, slower than Fernando Alonso's Aston Martin, at least in terms of qualifying yesterday. So needs some more from Ferrari if they're really going to spark any joy in their fan base. Like, Lewis Hamilton still yet to get a podium this season. Charles Leclerc yet to get a win. Yeah, no wins for Charles Leclerc as well. So it's been a tough season if you're a Ferrari fan, to say the least. Still Vegas to go, though. They were pretty strong in Vegas last year. That's kind of it. Abu Dhabi, they weren't too shabby. Well, I'm a poet, didn't know it. But I can't imagine them getting a victory anywhere else, and it doesn't look like they're going to get a victory here, so it's going to be pretty dull end to the season for Ferrari. Maybe a second place in the Constructors is up for grabs if Mercedes will probably be pretty quick in Vegas, won't they? Maybe a third place in the Constructors will be consolidated by Ferrari over the next sort of few races or so. Pierre Gasly, I think we also have to mention as like a big winner. I think, you know, had the longest pointsless streak of all the 10 teams because Alpine have just not been able to get anywhere close to the points, whilst RB and Williams and Aston Martin and Haas and even Stake Sauber have been racking up the points. You know, everyone else above Alpine is over the 60-point margin. I mean, Williams above 110 points now. What are they on? 111 in total, Williams. So the fact that Pierre Gasly was able to get a point and finally show that there is maybe light at the end of the tunnel. I know it's just one. I know it's just sprint racing as opposed to a full Grand Prix, but Gasly does go well here in Brazil. And Alpine have looked so bad that just 1 point, I think, is actually a really sort of big moment. And certainly, like, he looked quick. He only missed out on SQ3 because Charles Leclerc went for a spin in front of him. He kind of got caught up in that same malaise where Lewis Hamilton had to slow down for the yellow flag. So Pierre Gasly then had to slow down as well because he was behind Lewis Hamilton in qualifying. So I could see Gasly getting into Q3 here as long as things don't play against him. And then I don't see why Gasly won't score points tomorrow, if I'm honest with you. I think, you know, he is a very quick around here. The Alpine does seem to just be able to deliver performance when it comes to Interlagos. Got a double podium here last year. I know it was very lucky double podium. It's not like an on-merit double podium. But, well, I suppose on merit, once Esteban Ocon and Gasly got into that position, they held onto it very well indeed. So, I don't know. George Russell has actually a good chance of winning. He's like an underdog. Expect either Lando or Oscar or Max. And then his teammate just amazed us. We saw in Canada and even Singapore. Oh, yeah, I think George Russell will probably win in Vegas. I don't think he'll get the win here this weekend. Just think that they need the conditions to stay absolutely perfect for them. I mean, it's certainly not impossible. And I think Mercedes, the cooler temperatures are playing into their favor, but it's starting to get a little bit warmer than it was earlier on in the day. The sun has come out. The rain has gone. The track temperature will be higher. It's going to be tough. I think they're more likely to win in Vegas than they are to win here in Brazil. But George Russell, never count him out. Of course, got his debut victory here a few seasons ago now for Mercedes. Lance Stroll finishing just outside the points. Isaac Hadjar the same, but come the Grand Prix, those would have been point-scoring positions. I could see Lance Stroll getting points here this weekend. Don't think he's been horrendously slow. It was a bad start that kind of cost him more than anything else at the beginning of the sprint race, and then got outdone by Pierre Gasly just towards the end because Gasly was on those fresh soft compound tyres. Twitch is getting laggy. Oh, let me just check it. I might have done something. Can't see anything on my end. Says I got 4,000 kilobits per second. Interesting. Not sure, mate. Apologies. Apologies. But yeah, Lance Stroll, I think we'll end up getting points. Isaac Hadjar may be the same. As I say, it's so competitive between those midfield teams. You got like Hadjar, Ocon, Behrman, Lawson, even Hulkenberg and Bortoletto to an extent this weekend. I can see all of them like sneaking into that final point scoring place. I think the Williams car is looking like the car least likely to score in. But then Albon wasn't horrendously slow. You know, Albon was running in front of Isaac Hadjar and in front of Gabriel Bortoletto until he was showered in Stake Sauber debris. So I don't know. I think when it comes to the Grand Prix, any of those midfield teams could certainly slot in there. When is qualifying? We are about 10 minutes out, 13 minutes out from the start of qualifying. And I think it's going to be quite unpredictable because the soft compound tyre worked very differently to the medium compound tyre yesterday. You know, you saw a big difference between SQ2 and SQ3. You know, Fernando Alonso was the quickest guy on the medium tyre in SQ2. Wasn't quite anywhere close to that on the soft compound tyre. So I do think there is going to be a bit of an interchange between those two. And the fact that we're now going on to full soft compound tyres, all 20 cars get access to the soft compound tyre as well. I think we will actually see a different grid, which sometimes doesn't happen, right? Sometimes the sprint qualifying does just tell us what normal qualifying is going to look like. I don't think that's the case this time around. I think sprint qualifying and normal qualifying will be fairly different. You know, I'm not saying that it's going to be everyone who was in the top 10 yesterday is going to be in the bottom 10 today, but certainly I could see a few drivers swapping positions and a few drivers who maybe got through to SQ3 yesterday, not being able to do it. A few drivers who dropped out in SQ2. I'm looking at like Hamilton and Gasly. I think may be able to get themselves through into SQ3. Bortoletto as well, I think, dropped out a little bit earlier than he maybe would have wanted to. You know, Hulkenberg was able to get into SQ3. Bortoletto usually has the better qualifying of the two Stake Sauber cars, although they have got to put that Stake Sauber car back together again. So whether it will be a fully fledged car that he is got underneath him, we'll have to kind of wait and see. But yeah, I can see it playing out slightly differently in this qualifying compared to the last qualifying that we had. Shall we get predictions in then? We'll talk about your guys' predictions for the race tomorrow in full. But if you want to get your predictions in before the start of the Grand Prix, you can head over to the community tab. Or sorry, it's called the posts tab now, isn't it? The posts tab on YouTube. And on the Monday of every race week, I release a little quiz / form for you guys to fill out. You predict your winner of the Grand Prix, the podium places behind, your good surprise, your best team of the weekend, who's going to struggle, and which team you think is going to flop the most. Of course, we can take a little bit of the sprint race to help us with our working out at this point now, but still fair to get your votes in for when it comes to the full Grand Prix, especially because it does feel like tomorrow is going to be forecast for rain. Today, though, looking dry. Looking like qualifying is going to be fully dry and nobody's going to get caught out by the intermediate tyres. But it looks like tomorrow still is a wet Grand Prix. Looking very windy, though, in this qualifying session. Much windier than it was in sprint qualifying yesterday. So that might also play into your thinking. We know that the Williams car absolutely hates when there is any kind of gusty breeze in and around its car. So I think the new softs was a bad idea during the sprint. Not the new softs, surely. The new softs, like Pierre Gasly was the only driver on new softs and they worked perfectly. The scrubbed softs, yeah, I think so. Like the guys who started on mediums and then swapped onto softs, and then that kind of played against them. Whereas actually the guys that started on softs and then under the red flag could swap to mediums helped them out dramatically. Like, would Charles Leclerc have been able to get past Fernando Alonso if the tyres had been the other way around? I don't know. I don't think so. I think it would have been a very different run that he'd have had to make. I would have loved a wet quali like last year. Yeah, wet quali does have something about it, doesn't it? It's that thing. Would you rather have a wet qualifying and a dry race? Or would you rather have a dry qualifying and a wet race? I think that's it's actually a pretty close debate for me. So I think a wet qualifying can really shuffle up the grid. And that can then make the race entertaining because in the dry, you start to see where the real pace of the drivers is. And you get to see some of those cars that maybe lost out in terms of wet qualifying actually try and make momentum back during the Grand Prix. Or do you start dry quali, everybody where they should be, but then a wet race to kind of mix up the strategies and throw it in? Wet quali mixes the grid more. That's what I mean. The wet quali certainly mixes the grid more, but then the wet race allows for those different strategy components and the ins and outs and the gambles of, do you go onto the wet tire before anybody else? Who's going to be the first driver to go onto the wet tire? Like, that always kind of plays into it, doesn't it? And makes it quite an entertaining afternoon because we're trying to predict who's going to be where and when. Wet race, because then Max can cook, hopefully. It's true. Both is good. You can't have both. That's what I just said. If you couldn't have both, you got to have one or the other. You can't have everything in this world. You can't have your cake and eat it. Can't have wet qualifying and wet race. There's only so many rain clouds around. If you use up your rain clouds in qualifying, you got no rain clouds left for the race. It's looking like this weekend, Brazil has decided no rain clouds for qualifying, though, and rain clouds expected for the race. Was the Liam Ollie thing ever resolved? Ooh, great question. I think so. Who was it? Someone got... Let me find the actual full thing. Where are we? Penalty points. Nope, it's just not loading the web page for me now. Let me open it in a new tab. I was going to read the full thing, but it's not loading for me, unfortunately. There we go. There you go. The Briton, Oliver Bearman. Oh my God, why is it now covered in adverts? Oh, because I have an ad blocker on it. And it's saying that I'm not allowed to use an ad block. Pause on this site. There we go. So, Ollie Bearman took a 5-second penalty for the sprint race time, finishing 12th ahead of Lawson. Bearman was also awarded a single penalty point for the incident, bringing his total back up to 9 just days after losing 2 points from his license. So he is now back up to 9 points, is Ollie Bearman. And yeah, 5-second penalty and 1 penalty point. They deemed that on the exit of turn 3, Bearman had lost the battle and switched the inside line to run to turn 4. However, Lawson had filled the space and left him and Bearman Bearman did not leave enough room for the Kiwi to avoid the grass. There you go. So yeah, I don't know. For me, it's again that thing of like, where do you count the apex of the corner? Who do you judge to be ahead of the apex? That kind of thing. But the stewards supposedly talked to both drivers, looked at the review, and deemed that because Ollie Bearman had lost momentum at the exit of turn 3, and then was battling into turn 4, didn't leave enough space into turn 4, and has now picked up another penalty point. Yeah, I kind of thought it was more Liam's fault too, if I'm brutally honest. But maybe, you know, the stewards have another way of looking at it. Or clearly, the stewards have another way of looking at it. Again, it's that ahead at the apex thing. It's impossible to really judge because turn 3 and turn 4 are kind of quite long corners. So, like, where is the true apex? Because you can take different lines through those corners depending on when you want to be on the inside and the outside of the track, as we saw with the 2 drivers involved, because they were fighting with one another. So they were taking different lines through the corners. But, yeah. Ollie Bearman, a 5-second penalty. Didn't affect him too much. Like, the spin affected him way more than anything else, right? Ollie Bearman now on 9 penalty points. Remember, 12 is a 12 penalty points is a race ban. We saw it for the first time ever from Kevin Magnussen last year, where Ollie Bearman got his run out in a Haas car for the first time that year. And maybe we'll see another driver take the Haas seat. Who would take that? Rio Hirakawa, has he got enough super license points? Don't know. Not sure who Haas would get in if they did lose Ollie Bearman for a Grand Prix. Will I be live for the race too? Yes, indeed, I will. Ollie collects penalty points like Pokemon. Yeah, he's done pretty well, actually. Like, he would have been on 11 now had he not lost the couple of penalty points from last year in... from last year. He would have lost... He'd been on 11 now, rather than 9. Not very good at all from Ollie Bearman. I think he just loves a little incident with Ollie Bearman more than anything else. Just loves to be involved. And sometimes being involved is not where you need to be. Especially when you've got more than 10 penalty points. Well, he's got 9 now, I guess. I just joined. Why the red flag? During the sprint, like 3 hours ago. Because there was a triple crash. The red flag. Piastri crashed, then Hülkenberg crashed, then Colapinto crashed, all at the same corner at the same time. Hirakawa does have enough super license points. Oh, there you go. They might get him in. I mean, hopefully this won't happen, right? Hopefully Ollie Behrman will not get 12 penalty points on his license. I'd prefer to see Ollie Behrman complete the full season. I think that has to be said. Oh. Start of qualifying will be delayed. As Gabriel Bortoleto Sauber is still kind of in pieces, to be honest. Mattia Binotto looking over the Stake Sauber car as Gabriel Bortoleto's seat is being put back into that Stake car. They've done a miracle job to put together the majority of that car. Lando Norris, though, looking on. Oscar Piastri, the other side of the garage, getting ready to jump into the car. But a slight delay to the start of Q1. It's been pushed back by 5 minutes. So Q1 will start at 13:03 local time. It's about 6 minutes from now, rather than right this moment. Was there rain after the sprint race? There was, yeah. It was literally a few minutes after the sprint race, like 10 minutes after the sprint race, it started raining. And then has now stopped and completely dried. So it is a dry qualifying session that we've got ahead of us. Kimi Antonelli, just a little adjustment to the front wing of that Mercedes car. Antonelli already inside of it, getting strapped in and looking at the data from earlier on in the day. Bortoletto's driving in quali. Should be. Nico Hülkenberg already getting out and underway. They've got an extra 5 minutes at Stake Sauber to get that car going. So fingers crossed he will be out there, but there were still pieces of the car they were putting back together again. Matteo Binotto only just handed back the seat of the car to the engineers to put back into it. So they have been working tirelessly and as quickly as humanly possible at Stake Sauber. Not quite all back together yet, though. Does anyone know if the sprint winners received anything? Oh, if they got, like, belt buckles. Yeah, they did get trophies. They got little trophies this time around. America always does something weird, doesn't it? Very Texas to get a belt buckle. Alex Albon and Carlos Sainz already standing at the end of the grid. Temperature is a lot higher. Just looking at the track temperature 44.1 degrees Celsius, air temperature 25.9. So Mercedes fans maybe not looking at the sunshine with positivity there. We are waiting for the start of the session. 3 minutes and 15 seconds before it is about to get underway. Which is better, Austin or Vegas? Oof, Austin, right? Although we haven't had a bad Vegas race yet. I think I just prefer Austin because I've known it longer. And I prefer the track at Austin. It's a proper track. If it rains, Max has a good chance. No rain today. Rain tomorrow for the Grand Prix, quite possibly. There will not be rain during qualifying today, I don't think. Unless it literally comes out of nowhere. It is not expected. It's not on the radar. Not anticipated in any way. Bortoletto's car still up on the stands. And 2 minutes to run before we get underway. Coda is definitely the better track, but Vegas has decent races. Yeah, it's very true. Nobody likes Miami. Yeah, that's true. Miami is certainly the least liked American track, I would say. Tonight is Jenson Button's final professional motor race. Go show him some love. Very true. Yeah, the end of Jenson Button. I did like his helmet. His helmet's like an homage to his first ever karting helmet that he's wearing for his final race this evening. I do bloody love Jenson Button. What a good looking man that is. If you could look like any Formula One driver, I think I'd choose Jenson Button. He is a sublime specimen. And my favorite racing driver. So me and JB, both being JBs, plays into our favor. Sao Paulo rain isn't very predictable. Yeah, that's very true. Hope Bortoleto does good. I mean, I hope Bortoleto is even part of it, to be honest. He is still waiting for his car to be put back together. There's no front wing on the Stake Sauber currently. They've still got a little bit of time. We've got just over a minute, or just under a minute, sorry, until qualifying gets underway. And then he doesn't have to go out straight away. 18 minutes on the clock during qualifying 1. So got another 15 minutes before they absolutely guaranteed need to get out on track. Otherwise, they will not get a lap time in. Nico Hulkenberg is also being given the go-ahead, I think, and is going to join the queue in the pit lane. The 2 Williams cars, the 2 Haas's and the 2 Alpines already down there. And we're about to get underway when the green light finally shows at the end of the pit lane. It'll be the 2 Williams cars that were very, very eager to get out first and foremost. They've been waiting at the end of the pit lane for a couple of minutes now. They are out first and foremost, and Albon following Sainz. Hulkenberg was indeed the next car in the little pile-up that we had at the end of the pit lane. Behrman and Ocon, Colapinto and Gasly. Piastri has come out fairly early as well, by the looks of things. Piastri wanted to get out in the mix earlier on. Not usually the case for some of those top teams, but Piastri wanting to get out on track and maybe just get a bit more of a feel inside of that McLaren car. Fernando Alonso and Lewis Hamilton both already in the pit lane. Gasly and Sainz on the medium compound tyre, as well as Alex Albon as well. So again, we know that they get less tyres over the course of the weekend for a sprint weekend. They need to be a little bit careful about what's used and when. Do you remember I'm the person that said during Netherlands qualifying, if Max gets P1, I'll super chat $500. I was going to give you $500 this time, but my mum and dad took away my bank account. Jesus Christ. I feel like if your mum and dad have control of your bank account, you shouldn't be available to give $500 to anybody. Anyhow, Lando and Max will win the race. Lando or Max, sorry. I was going to say Lando and Max can't win the race. But here we are then. Nico Hulkenberg is setting a flying lap. Albon and Sainz decided to come into the pit, so Hulkenberg is actually going to be the first driver to set a flying lap time. Behrman and Ocon just making their way through the middle sector as well. Currently, Behrman quickest of anybody through the first part of the lap. Colapinto can't go quicker than the Haas car. In fact, it's 0.5 of a second down on the Haas cars. Lewis Hamilton moving out of the way of Nico Hulkenberg. Hulkenberg sets the standard at a 36.2 through the middle part of the lap. Here comes Behrman to go quicker than that. Liam Lawson has just taken the fastest first sector away from the Briton, though. And Hulkenberg aborts that lap and comes into the pit. So Hulkenberg is not going to be the first driver to set a flying lap time. It's going to be Oliver Behrman to go top of the timing sheets first and foremost with a 1:10.6. We know that the lap times will be much quicker than that come the end of qualifying, but Esteban Ocon is next. Slots in 0.3 of a second behind Ollie Behrman in second spot. The two Hasses then fastest at the moment. Franco Colapinto a second adrift of Esteban Ocon's second place time. So Franco Colapinto slots in fourth now as Pierre Gasly comes across the line to go third fastest in his Alpine. Liam Lawson was going very quickly indeed and does indeed take top spot by 1/10 of a second from Ollie Behrman. Purple in all three sectors from Liam Lawson. Alex Albon across the start-finish line just behind him. Piastri is also just coming around to set a flying lap. Oh, it's only fifth fastest for Oscar Piastri. A big lock-up from Oscar Piastri. The reason that he only set a 1:11.8. So Oscar Piastri's weekend still not really clicking into gear. Lewis Hamilton also running wide at turn 1. It's so frustrating when you do that. The first corner you make a mistake, you know that your entire lap time, you're just chasing tenths of a second that you could have had in your favor had you got the first corner correct. Lando Norris, though, flying first sector purple, second sector purple. And Liam Lawson, top of the timing sheet still until Lando Norris comes around turn 15. Surely is going to go first and does indeed by 1/10 of a second, a 1:10.4. But we know that the track will get quicker and quicker. We're nowhere near the lap times that we saw from SQ3 yesterday. Max Verstappen coming around the final couple of corners in his Red Bull. Where's he going to slot into proceedings? Norris currently quickest. Lawson and Behrman, though, still quicker than Max Verstappen as he goes fourth fastest overall. Albon is fifth, Leclerc sixth, Ocon seventh, Stroll, Alonso and Hadjar the top 10. Of course, we're only looking for the bottom 5. Lewis Hamilton in that bottom 5, but not for long as he goes purple in both sectors, does Lewis Hamilton, and is 0.2 of a second up on Lando Norris's lap time as he comes towards the final part of the lap. Here comes Lewis Hamilton then, and is just under 0.2 quicker than Lando Norris. Purple in the first two sectors, and a 1:10.2 from Lewis Hamilton. Nico Hulkenberg is back at it again, decided against setting a first flying lap and ducked into the pits. And maybe, for the right reasons, comes out and does the third fastest lap of anybody. He's 2.5 tenths off Lewis Hamilton's time, but purple in the final sector from the Stake Sauber car. We're just waiting on Russell and Antonelli to set a flying lap time. George Russell just coming through turn 6 on your screens now. Kimi Antonelli a corner behind at turn 5. Gabriel Bortoletto's car still, unfortunately, in pieces inside of the Stake Sauber garage, and Bortoletto looking on, I think, hopeful that he'll be able to get into the car, but not expectant that he'll be able to get into the car for this qualifying session. Keep you posted. Yeah, it's not looking like it, actually, now that I see the car once again. George Russell coming around at turn 15 is going to come across the start-finish line to get his first flying lap underway. Kimi Antonelli just behind him. The two Mercedes cars, of course, starting second and fourth for the sprint race earlier on today. Managed to both end up on the podium after Oscar Piastri's crash. George Russell trying to do it once again. Of course, for now, just needs to get himself out of that bottom 5. Bortoletto pretty much set on being in it. I don't think the Stake Sauber team are going to be able to put that car together again quickly enough. So we're looking at Colapinto, Piastri, Tsunoda, and Gasly, likely the bottom 5, once Russell and Antonelli have completed their laps. Antonelli and Russell just coming through the middle sector now. Russell through turn 10, Antonelli through turn 9. A little bit of traffic as Alonso and Colapinto have to move out of the way of George Russell. Kimi Antonelli also catching the back of Lando Norris as he was during the sprint earlier on, but this time being able to move past Lando Norris as he goes quickest through the middle part of the lap. Kimi Antonelli until Ollie Behrman takes that away from him. George Russell slots into second place for now. Kimi Antonelli goes quickest of anybody and is into the 110.1s. Here comes Ollie Behrman, who then takes 0.3 of a second out of Kimi Antonelli's time as the first driver in this session to get into the 1 minute 9 second lap times. And Ollie Behrman, I think Ollie, when he's a little bit angry, you do just get a bit more from him. Sometimes when he's had a frustrating weekend or something annoying happen to him, he does just come out swinging, does Ollie Behrman. He is going to be very put out by the fact he got another penalty point during the sprint race. And now we're seeing the best of Ollie Behrman. Fastest of anybody so far, 0.3 of a second on Kimi Antonelli. Here comes Charles Leclerc, who was 12th fastest on his first flying lap time and is now 7th fastest in his second flying lap time. Still half a second adrift of Ollie Behrman, the other Ferrari driver and the fastest Ferrari driver at the moment. Lewis Hamilton has dropped down to 4th place now, although Fernando Alonso has just displaced Hamilton as he goes up into 4th. Franco Colapinto moves himself out of the bottom 5, up into 13th place, but Albon and Ocon looking suspiciously close to the drop zone, especially as Pierre Gasly has just gone 2nd fastest of anybody in the Alpine. Oscar Piastri is currently 19th fastest, but it was a mistake on his lap, so not a representative lap time. Here is one for you, and it is 2nd fastest overall, and 0.03 of a second off Ollie Behrman's lap time. So Piastri finding the pace that we're expecting from him. And now Verstappen down in that bottom 5. By the way, both of the Red Bulls. Gabriel Bortoleto has got his crash helmet on. He's still hoping that they're going to be able to put that car's tyres on before the session ends. Ooh, I'm not so sure. Track temperature has dropped a little bit, 41.3 degrees C now. Air temperature still 26.2, but actually a little bit overcast compared to what it was just a few moments ago. Verstappen in the drop zone indeed. Nico Hülkenberg improves and goes 11th fastest, does Nico Hülkenberg. A 1:10.337 from the German driver. Esteban Ocon, we're looking at his Haas car currently down in the drop zone. And Ollie Behrman currently in first spot. That is the duality of Haas right there. The two drivers at polar opposite ends of the spectrum. Only Yuki Tsunoda slower than Esteban Ocon at the moment. Here comes Max Verstappen then, who is currently in 16th place. Carlos Sainz was 0.03 of a second quicker than him. So Max Verstappen, the minimum he needs to find to get himself out of that bottom 5. I'm sure there's a lot more in the tank as Max Verstappen comes through turn 4 and has indeed found 0.06 of a second already in that first sector. The second sector is where it really matters, though. The tricky turn 8 through turn 9, and then the really awkward turn 10. It's so easy to get turn 10 wrong, as we saw from a few drivers over the course of the weekend so far. But Max Verstappen looking very comfortable indeed, smoothly through turn 10 and 11. It's actually 1/10 of a second down and has not improved through that middle sector as Max Verstappen needs a really, really swift final sector here, Max. And stays 16th fastest. He was improving through the first sector, but the second and third sectors were absolutely nowhere close. Now, does he go back around again and very, very quickly put a new set of tyres on? Or have they fueled that car enough for him to be able to do another lap? Max going very slowly through the first part of the lap. I think just maybe hoping that somebody is going to come out of the pit lane and give him a little bit of a tow, but Verstappen not going to get that lucky, I don't think, and is going to go past the exit of the pit lane before anybody comes out to help him. Verstappen on the radio. Still not very happy inside of that Red Bull car. Sliding in turn one, says Max Verstappen. Let's have a little look at this onboard from Max. It doesn't look... Oh, and actually, yeah. Big snap through turn 8. Sorry, through turn 9. Didn't see that from the screens that we were watching, but a big, big snap through turn 9. Gabriel Bortoleto. No, he's not disqualified. It's just whether or not they can get that Stake Sauber car out literally in the next sort of 30 seconds or so. Nico Hulkenberg coming out of the Stake Sauber garage. Still yet to see a Gabriel Bortoleto shaped car anywhere close to being ready to race. Verstappen, though, is going to have another cool down lap. They've clearly trying to save these soft tyres, Verstappen, and Verstappen doesn't really know what to tell you. It's not often that Max Verstappen struggles to find the words to describe how he is feeling. Not that those words are often kind, but there's often words he can use. Max Verstappen, though, very uncomfortable inside of that Red Bull car. Ollie Behrman on an outlap, currently the fastest driver out there. George Russell is on a flying lap right now. Lando Norris, though, has just gone quickest of anybody through the first part of the lap. Lando Norris currently 9th fastest in the McLaren car, but we know there's a lot more pace inside of it, comparing the lap times to yesterday's sprint qualifying session, as he also goes quickest of anybody so far in this session through the middle part of the lap as well. Lando Norris likely to jump to the number 1 spot. Oscar Piastri, his teammate, currently in 2nd. And Lando Norris does indeed finds 2.5 tenths of a second, a 1:9.6 from Lando Norris. George Russell goes 4th fastest, so the Britons moving their way up the table. Lando Norris 1st, Behrman 2nd, Russell 4th. 3 out of the top 4 British drivers, all in different teams. Liam Lawson jumps up into 5th place. So it is Verstappen, Colapinto, Ocon, and Tsunoda, the current bottom 5. And Tsunoda doesn't improve through the first sector. Could be looking at another Yuki Tsunoda Q1 exit. It's becoming more routine inside of his Red Bull car, isn't it? Charles Leclerc jumps up into 4th place to displace George Russell. Yuki Tsunoda, then, let's look through the middle sector, has at least found a little bit of time, but it's still 3 tenths of a second down on Esteban Ocon, who has now moved himself up into 15th. And Tsunoda is not going to find the pace here unless he has an absolute stonking final sector, but it's up into 18th place for Tsunoda, and it's going to be another Q1 exit Max Verstappen also, S1 is slower than before. He is struggling, is Max Verstappen. Let's see what his lap time is like as he comes through turn 9 and turn 10. He is not looking very swift at all. Esteban Ocon has dropped back into that bottom 5. Colapinto the same. Verstappen versus Hulkenberg then looking like the battle for it, as Lewis Hamilton jumps up into 7th place and away from that drop zone. Kimi Antonelli also perilously close to the bottom 5. Gabriel Bortoleto did not make it out, by the way, just to confirm. And here comes Verstappen, and Verstappen is out. Verstappen out in Q1 for the first time since Russia in 2021. That is an absolute nightmare for Max Verstappen. And Lando Norris is going to be beaming looking at the timing screens. He is first place, Piastri down in 4th, a 9 point advantage over his teammate. And Gabriel Bortoleto, they just put the car back together again. And he is going to be in 20th. Yuki Tsunoda, 19th place. Franco Colapinto, 18th. Esteban Ocon, 17th. And Max Verstappen, I have no grip, 16th fastest. That is, what's the opposite of simply lovely? It is absolute disaster from Max Verstappen. It is, get your rain boots on if you're a Max Verstappen fan. Maybe book yourself a couple of tickets over to Brazil and take a couple of buckets of water with you, because he's going to need it tomorrow. He needs that racetrack to be slippery and wet. Complicatedly horrendous for Max Verstappen. Rain gods, please. Simply badly. Going to be P17 to P1 again. I mean, he's only starting 16th. P16 to P1. Did it last year, has to be said. But Max Verstappen, 3rd place in the championship, is out in 16th place. Ocon, Colapinto, Tsunoda, Bortoleto, the other drivers out. Bortoleto not setting a lap time after his crash during the sprint. They'd almost put that car back together again, but couldn't quite. I think I know they had the 5-minute delay, which helped them out a touch, but if that 5-minute delay had been a 10-minute delay, I think Bortoleto would have got a lap in. That is how close the stake team were to getting that car running again. But not quite enough. And Bortoleto will start from the back of the grid. Let's look at the rest of it then. Max Verstappen out. But we do have 15 drivers still to be looking at. So Albon, Alonso, Sainz, Antonelli, and Hulkenberg will be the 5 drivers that need to improve. Lando Norris quickest from Pierre Gasly and Ollie Behrman in that first qualifying session. Behrman actually using a scrubbed set of tyres as well. Piastri 4th fastest. Charles Leclerc, George Russell, Hamilton, Stroll, Hadjar, and Lawson made up the top 10. Had that been Q2, they would be our top 10 for now. But Max Verstappen already through turn 1, sliding wide at the apex, just can't get the power down as he's coming through turn 2. You can see the comparison they're showing on the Sky coverage between Lando Norris and Max Verstappen. First sector of the lap, already a 10th of a second, if not more, down. And yeah, just Absolutely horrendous from the Red Bull team. Both of their cars out in Q1. When's the last time that both Red Bulls dropped out in Q1? It's got to be a long time ago, surely. I know that Max Verstappen's last Q1 exit was Russia in 2021, so it's got to be at least before then. Red Bull is gone. I mean, this does feel like Max Verstappen's title hopes sealed and sent next year. Maybe will be the 5th championship, but doesn't look like this one is going to be. Even if it rains, he's been struggling all weekend. I doubt he'll get top 5. That's the thing, right? We say the rain can play in his favor, but he still needs to have confidence in the car. He still needs to believe it and have a faith that the car will do what he wants it to do. And at the moment, he does not look very happy at all. And wow. I just can't believe that. Cannot believe that from Max Verstappen. What? Has he ever dropped out in Q1 without it being a problem with the car in some sort of way, like a power unit problem or like a collision? Or I don't know if he has. I think Max is legitimately failing or something. I don't know. I think it was just lost all confidence in that car, like no grip. Crazy amount of movement inside of the car. You can see it sliding around as he's coming into turn 1. Max Verstappen out. Wow. Albon, Alonso, Sainz, Antonelli, Hulkenberg, then the 5 drivers that we need to keep an eye on. Q2 will start at 3:30, so we are set to get underway almost right now. Waiting for the timing screen to come up. 15 minutes on the clock. Green light is shown at the end of the pit lane. And nobody is out there. Oh, nope. Here come the Williams cars once again. Albon and Sainz both making it through to Q2 this time around. A track that the Williams team has said doesn't really suit their car. So much better from the 2 Williams cars for now. Both on scrubbed sets of softs to get this first lap in Q2 out. ChatGPT says last time both were eliminated in Q1 was 2006 Japan. Jesus Christ. That is insane. GameStar, thank you for the super chat. Max fans want a heavy downpour tomorrow. I mean, heavy downpour and maybe a safety car in his favor. And for Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri to just spontaneously combust, I think, is all the things that Max Verstappen needs. Qualified P17 due to a penalty? That's what I mean. I can't remember the last time he dropped out in a Q1 position just, like, on pace. What is the weather report saying right now? It is saying no rain. Track temperature, 38.6. So the track temperature is cooling. And the air temperature staying around the same 25.6. But there's a little bit more coverage at this moment in time. Albon and Sainz next then to set flying lap times. Got the track all to themselves. Thank you for the super chat of 79 pence. Appreciate it. Alex Albon, quickest of anybody through the first sector. Only driver to have done the first sector. Then Carlos Sainz actually beats him to it by 0.003 of a second. And Albon and Sainz still the only drivers out on track. Albon, quickest of anybody through the middle sector. Can Sainz outdo him? Just coming around turn 11 now. And Alex Albon going to set the lap time at a 110.3. Couple of tenths slower than he actually was in his best run last time around, but is on a scrubbed set of soft compound tyres, and Carlos Sainz has had enough of that lap because he ducks into the pits and decides against setting that lap time after all. Gotta admit that championship title charge for Max is over now. Let's wait until the race tomorrow. But yeah, I mean, it's not looking very likely at this point, is it? As we see some more cars coming out on track. Charles Leclerc, the first of the non-Williams cars to get involved in Q2. Piastri just behind. Hamilton as well. Ollie Behrman, very quick in the first part of qualifying. Now coming around turn 4. Hadjar, Alonso. Liam Lawson going a little bit slow in the pit lane, but maybe just trying to leave himself a bit more of a gap to Fernando Alonso ahead. Lance Stroll following out as well. Gasly, Hulkenberg, Norris, and Carlos Sainz has come back out once more. So George Russell and Antonelli again deciding to wait until the rest of the pack have already made their runs. Charles Leclerc comes across the start-finish line, and let's see what the pace is like for Ferrari. The Red Bull cars have dropped out, so Ferrari guaranteed to not be the slowest of the top 4 in the Constructors' Championship. And Oscar Piastri just coming through the first sector as well is a touch slower than Charles Leclerc. Lewis Hamilton also slower than the Monegasque driver. So Leclerc, the upper hand through the first sector of the cars that completed it. Ollie Behrman also not quite as quick as the Ferrari, but quicker than Piastri and Hamilton is Ollie Behrman. Just goes to show that Behrman is properly in the mix at the moment. And Charles Leclerc, I think, has given up on that lap. A little bit of a mistake from the Monegasque man in the middle sector. So Oscar Piastri is then going to be the next driver to come across the start-finish line. It's a purple middle sector from Oscar Piastri as well. Setting the standards high. Lewis Hamilton can't match them. Neither can Ollie Behrman. So Piastri sets it at a 109.8. Hamilton comes across the line 2.5 tenths of a second slower. Charles Leclerc did indeed finish that lap, but 16 seconds adrift, decided to back out of it. Ollie Behrman goes quickest. Fastest in the final sector, Ollie Behrman. He's found nearly a tenth of a second on Oscar Piastri's lap time. Ollie Behrman is flying right now. Isaac Hadjar just goes quicker than anybody in the final sector and goes third fastest overall. Fernando Alonso and Pierre Gasly next to come around. Alonso just coming around turn 15 now across the start-finish line. It's 4th fastest for the Aston Martin. Maybe we are going to see some midfield drivers mix it in with the big boys. As Liam Lawson now goes 3rd fastest to displace his teammate from that position. So we've got Behrman, Lawson, Hadjar, Alonso inside of the top 5 currently. Oscar Piastri, the only big team name in there. Here comes Pierre Gasly to go 7th fastest in his Alpine. That puts Lance Stroll and Alex Albon that a little bit closer to dropping down into the bottom 5. Charles Leclerc has set another lap time, and it's only 9th fastest for Charles Leclerc. It's 4.5 tenths of a second off the pace of Ollie Behrman. Behrman's still the fastest Ferrari out there. Lando Norris across the start-finish line, 3rd fastest and behind his teammate by a tenth of a second. Albon, though, now drops into that bottom 5. Is going quickly, though, Alex Albon. Quickest of anybody in the first sector. Hulkenberg down there. So is Carlos Sainz. The Williams is looking to improve. And Alex Albon does up into 7th place. Puts Charles Leclerc into that bottom 5. George Russell comes across the line to go 3rd fastest overall. A 1:08.88 from George Russell. And Kimi Antonelli then, the final driver to set a respective lap time, goes second fastest. It is Behrman, Antonelli, Piastri, Russell, Norris, our top 5. Very close to what we had at the beginning of the sprint race today. But Lando Norris has been displaced by Oliver Behrman at the top of the timing sheets as Behrman makes his way back into the garage for Haas. Charles Leclerc not even in the top 10. Lewis Hamilton only just. Ollie Behrman, the future Ferrari man, fastest of anybody. He was ridiculously quick in Mexico as well, was Ollie Behrman. Now he's annoyed at the fact that he's got another penalty point. Like, literally, I think somebody just needs to go into the Haas garage and before every single competitive session, just tell Ollie Behrman some bad news. Like, just to walk up to him, go, look, Ollie, I've got some bad news for you, this. And he will absolutely lose it. But he will absolutely fly inside of that car. It probably won't be great for his mental health, but he might win a championship. So you win some, you lose some. George Russell got no grip. We're missing something here. I don't know what. I mean, he's only 4th fastest, is George Russell. It's a 10th of a second off of Ollie Behrman's lap time, but not happy inside of the car is George Russell right now. Gasly, Stroll, Leclerc, Hülkenberg, and Sainz down in the bottom 5. Just a reminder of the cars that dropped out in Q1, if you weren't here for it. Max Verstappen, Esteban Ocon, Franco Colapinto, Yuki Tsunoda, and Gabriel Bortoleto, the 5 drivers who dropped out. That's right, don't adjust your screens. Max Verstappen is out of qualifying, and he will start the race from tomorrow in 16th place. Ollie Behrman, then, the man that we've got our eyes on. Ooh. Oh, it's the weighbridge. Thought Kimi Antonelli had come to a stop somewhere, but no, he's just making his way out of the weighbridge. He's all good. Tell him every weekend as Cat's been run over, he'll turn into Prime Senna. Yeah, it's just a slight annoyance. Just tell him that he's got another penalty point. I think that's the thing, right? He just absolutely hates going to see the stewards. Just send him to see the stewards. Even if he's done nothing, just send him to go and have a chat to the stewards. That is more than enough to absolutely rile Ollie Behrman and get him to perform at his absolute best. Oscar under pressure, not Lando. Very true. Although Oscar Piastri currently 3rd fastest to Lando Norris's 5th fastest. So Piastri where he was at the beginning of today. Lando Norris 4 positions lower. But of course, Piastri, the driver that made the mistake in the sprint race, lost out on those points and now sits 9 points adrift at the top of the standings. What happened to Max? Absolutely no pace and no grip, to be honest with you. There's not anything too sophisticated to say. The Red Bull car was just abysmally slow. And Max Verstappen couldn't get any more out of it. Here we are then. Fernando Alonso. We go into the final round of Q2. 15 drivers, 15 laps ahead of us. And 10 of them are going to make it through. Is Fernando Alonso going to be one of them? He comes around turn 3. Has to be a little bit wary of Liam Lawson leaving the pits to the left-hand side of him, but runs down towards turn 4. He's a 10th of a second off Ollie Behrman's time, but is improving through the first part of the lap is Fernando Alonso. Nico Hülkenberg is also coming around just behind him. Lance Stroll is about to start his flying lap. The 2 Ferraris are ones to keep an eye on. Charles Leclerc just coming around turn 14 and Hamilton following suit. Interesting that they haven't learned from the mistake yesterday and have sent Charles Leclerc out ahead of Lewis Hamilton again. If Leclerc goes for a spin and ends up sending both of the Ferrari cars out, my goodness me, what on earth are they doing down at Ferrari? Fernando Alonso can't improve through the middle sector. He is 0.3 of a second down on Ollie Behrman's time, and that's not really going to help Fernando Alonso because he doesn't look to be improving. Charles Leclerc also has not improved through the first part of the lap, and Fernando Alonso did not improve, stays 8th fastest. Charles Leclerc, as I mentioned before, did not improve in Sector 1. Whereas Pierre Gasly, 11th fastest, did. Nico Hülkenberg has gone quicker. He's gone 8th fastest. So has put Lewis Hamilton into that bottom 5. So both Ferraris need a lap here. Lando Norris, keep an eye on him as well. He's just coming around turn 15 to start his flying lap. Charles Leclerc, a much, much better middle sector. He's found a couple of tenths of a second. And should be clear now of that bottom 10 pretty comfortably. Here comes Charles Leclerc in his 3rd fastest. Breathes a sigh of relief. Charles Leclerc nearly half a tenth slower than Ollie Behrman, who is still top of the timing sheets for now. Here comes Pierre Gasly to the line, and he is up into 5th place as Pierre Gasly was very frustrated not to get into SQ3 yesterday, was Pierre. Has put in his bid to try and get there for now. Hülkenberg has dropped down to 10th place and is on the bubble then. Alonso did not improve and is going to be out. Alex Albon is just coming around the middle sector now. It's an okay middle sector time from Alex Albon. Going to need to improve a little bit more though. Lance Stroll is out as well, I think. Is he on a flying lap time? Not that I can see. Carlos Sainz. Here comes Alex Albon. There. Here comes Lando Norris to go quickest of anybody. Purple in the 1st and 2nd sectors. Missed that. Lando Norris improves to go to the top of the timing sheets. And here we go then. Lewis Hamilton, 13th fastest at the moment. Did improve through the first part of the lap, did Lewis Hamilton. Here he comes then. Needs to find at least a tenth of a second. And Hamilton is a little bit slower than Hülkenberg as they come through the middle sector. Lance Stroll coming into the pits is out. Charles Leclerc then through. Lewis Hamilton is going to stay 13th fastest. Hamilton out in SQ2, out in Q2. Kimi Antonelli comes across the start-finish line. Didn't need to do anything. Lawson, Hadjar still running around out on track, but I think have set their lap times. So it is Alonso, Albon, Hamilton, Stroll, and Sainz. The 5 drivers out. The Aston Martins. This is what I said. The Aston Martins looked really quick on the medium tyre in sprint qualifying yesterday. Maybe just the change of track temperature. The fact that everybody is now on the soft compound tyre. And Aston Martin have fallen away once more. Fernando Alonso scoring points in the sprint earlier on today. Does not look to be scoring points tomorrow. Starting from 11th. Needs to improve. All 3 world champions are now out. Very true. Alonso, Hamilton, and Verstappen all out of qualifying. Lando Norris most likely to join that list of champions, though. Top of the timing sheets once more. His closest competitor, Oscar Piastri, down in 5th, is able to improve, though, in that top 10. So, Fernando Alonso, Alex Albon, Lewis Hamilton, Lance Stroll, and Carlos Sainz, the drivers that drop out 11th through 15th. They join Max Verstappen, Esteban Ocon, Franco Colapinto, Yuki Tsunoda, and Gabriel Bortoleto as the drivers that are out of this Grand Prix qualifying. That is a lot of big names that have dropped out a lot earlier than we were expecting. Norris and Behrman, currently the 2 battling it out for pole position. Kimi Antonelli also within touching distance. Charles Leclerc, you could argue the same. Piastri, though, more than 0.2 of a second adrift of Norris. Then Gasly, the same. George Russell down in 7th place. Nowhere near where he was in terms of pace from yesterday. Both of the RB cars in Lawson and Hadjar make it through. And Nico Hülkenberg, he's there once again. He's done it. He's been absolutely horrendous in qualifying this year as Nico Hülkenberg. Like, literally one of the worst qualifiers on the grid, and has had to do it every single time through race pace alone whenever he scored points. Nope, he is up there. Could actually start from inside of the top 10, Nico Hülkenberg. It's a stunning, stunning weekend from Hülkenberg so far. In terms of qualifying, that is. The sprint race didn't go amazingly. Max, what happened? Just absolutely no pace inside of that Red Bull. Nothing more, nothing less. No problems. No mechanical failures from anything that we could see. Verstappen just slow. It's not often we get to say that, is it? Verstappen just slow. Goodness me. P16 to P1. That is the run he's going to have to do. Did P17 to P1 last year, a lot of people saying, but under very different circumstances, it has to be said. Rain is expected. Never say never when it comes to Max. But we'll have to wait and see. Max is gone. He is indeed. The three champions all out at the same time. Congratulations to Behrman, though. Behrman, the fastest Ferrari driver at the moment. Second fastest. Esteban Ocon dropped out in 17th place as well. Behrman is on an absolute another level recently. Just seems to be all over it. Whatever they've done inside of that Haas team to make Ollie Behrman, well, I don't know what they're doing. They keep sending him to the stewards and giving him penalty points, and then he absolutely riles himself up into a performance where he just lashes out and puts in a second fastest lap in Q2. Max Verstappen being interviewed. And Max Verstappen saying it's just bad. The car was all over the place and couldn't do it. Just wouldn't work in qualifying for him. Nothing more, nothing less. Max Verstappen frustrated, annoyed. Nothing more that he could do, unfortunately, for the four-time world champion. And we're just a couple of minutes away from the final run in qualifying. As I say, Norris and Behrman, the two drivers currently battling it out for top spot. Kimi Antonelli was very close in sprint qualifying and in regular qualifying. He's also made his way to the top and could be in the mix for pole position. It is looking like it's going to be another run for Lando Norris, though. He was over a tenth of a second quicker than Behrman and Antonelli. Leclerc also in the mix. Piastri down in 5th place. Gasly in there. It's lovely to have like a Behrman, a Gasly, a Lawson, a Hadjar, a Hülkenberg. 5 of the top 10. And not the big name drivers, as it were. Some big names missing from that top 10. Possibility of a title battle is definitely over now for Max. Ooh, never say never when it is Max Verstappen. Eh? Never, ever say never. And Hadjar, not very happy at all. He loses the rear end of the car in turn 1, and he's not happy inside of that RB, despite getting through into the final part of qualifying. Q3 will start at 3:53. So we are a couple of minutes away from the start of the final part of qualifying. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm just going to plug a couple of things. You know, hit the like button on the stream if you are enjoying it. Follow us over on Twitch as well. Maybe subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're trying to get 150,000 subscribers before the end of the year. We've got 3 more race weekends to do it, but it is a triple header, so it's going to be very tight indeed. And if you haven't checked out this week's video, I'll link it down in the description for you. Maybe just have it open. Maybe even whilst you're watching this, just run it in the background, you know. Wouldn't help. Massively helps out the channel. Or if you haven't checked out Crash Happy, the podcast that I do, it's me, Dan No Scale, Mr. V, Mr. Pulse, and Formula Duck, talking about Formula One most of the time, and other times we talk about other things. It's a little bit of a chaos, but also a very, very fun listen that I would highly recommend. Almost at 10,000 subscribers over on there. That would be the big one. If we can hit 10,000 subscribers over on Crash Happy as well, that would be absolutely amazing. So head over to Crash Happy, make sure you're subscribed over there, and then come back because Q3 is about to get underway. You've got just enough time because Ollie Bearman is going to have to do a little bit of a formation lap before, or a warm-up lap before he gets a flying lap in. So you've got about a minute. It'll probably take about that much time to hit the subscribe button on here, type in Crash Happy, hit the subscribe button on there, leave a like, you know, open up the video. It's ready for you to watch later on, and then come back here, you know. What about asking the P1 guys for a visit on Crash Happy? I mean, we'll see what we can do. We've had a couple of guests on there. We are looking for more guests. So certainly, if you've got somebody that you'd like to see come over to Crash Happy, we are very much up for getting people involved. It's all fun and games. Ollie Bearman then out on track, running around in Q3 once again. Qualified 9th in Singapore, 8th in the US. It's got an opportunity to go even better than that. Nico Hülkenberg also into Q3 for the first time in a very long time. Gasly coming around turn 4. Leclerc and Norris making their way out of the pits as well. Lawson, Hadjar, Piastri already out on track. And it is George Russell and Kimi Antonelli once again zigging where everybody else has zagged and waiting for everyone else to get their laps in before they even leave the garage. Ollie Bearman then is going to be the first driver across the start-finish line this time around. So is going to go to the top of the timing sheets once more. It's just whether or not anyone else can catch him. It's an 18.1 through the first sector from Ollie Bearman. It's quicker than Nico Hülkenberg's 18.2, so he's already got a tenth of a second on the Stake Sauber car behind him. Russell and Antonelli finally making their way out of the pits as Pierre Gasly comes across the start-finish line to start his lap. Charles Leclerc the same. Lando Norris is one to keep an eye on. Of course, pole position for the sprint earlier on this afternoon. Now looking for his second pole position of the weekend. Ollie Bearman, though, sets the standard at a 35.7 through the middle part of the lap, which Nico Hülkenberg cannot beat. Pierre Gasly has gone quickest of anybody through the first sector until Charles Leclerc has just taken that away from him. So Charles Leclerc quickest of anybody in the first part of the lap so far. Can Lando Norris go quicker? No, Lando Norris very slow in the first sector, actually. An 18.8 from Lando Norris. I imagine has made a mistake or had a bit of a lock-up there somewhere, because Lando Norris is not going to finish that lap time, surely. He's not going to come back from 0.8 of a second down. Ollie Bearman set the standard at a 109.9. Hülkenberg 0.4 of a second adrift from that. Pierre Gasly, the next car to come across the line with a flying lap. George Russell has just started his flying lap ahead. Pierre Gasly goes a couple of tenths slower than Bearman, so second fastest overall. Kimi Antonelli starting his flying lap. Here comes Charles Leclerc to go to the front by just under a tenth of a second. And finally, the quicker of the two Ferrari cars. Lando Norris does finish his lap, goes purple in the second and third sectors, but still 0.6 of a second adrift was Lando Norris after a very, very squirmy first sector. Still, I guess, wanted to get a lap on the board, but not a lap really worth shouting about, as Lawson and Hadjar slot into 4th and 5th place. Here comes Oscar Piastri then to go fastest of anybody. He's found 0.002 of a second on Charles Leclerc's lap time. It's provisional pole for Oscar Piastri. And George Russell and Kimi Antonelli, the only drivers that can take it away from him. George Russell has gone pretty well through the first and second sectors. Kimi Antonelli has gone quickest of anybody through the first sector. Russell a couple of tenths down, though, across the line and goes into fourth place. Kimi Antonelli, fastest of anybody through the first sector, and a so-so middle sector, but could certainly make it happen here. No, a tenth of a second down. Kimi Antonelli, and actually displaces George Russell in fourth as the Mercedes sit side by side, fourth and fifth. So it is Piastri, Leclerc, Behrman, our top three at the moment. We did see a pole position for Kevin Magnussen here in Brazil under very, very different circumstances, though. A pole position for Ollie Behrman under these circumstances would be absolutely sublime from the British driver. And obviously his career best finish last time out in Mexico was a P4. It's the best finish that Haas have had since their debut season, I think. It was Romain Grosjean. Was it 2016, 2017? Romain Grosjean got a P4. So Ollie Behrman is matching and breaking records all over the place for this Haas team. He's absolutely flying at the moment. Gasly quick in the midfield as well, though. Sixth fastest overall, ahead of the two RB cars. Hulkenberg also quicker than Lando Norris. Norris, a big mistake into the first turn. Is this going to be another one? Was it 2018 P4 Grosjean? Thank you. 2018. But Lando Norris needs to buckle up. Is it going to be another qualifying where we talk about Lando Norris after the fact, having not quite delivered? Have to wait and see. It was a lock-up into the first couple of corners, though, for Lando Norris that sent him askew. He's got another opportunity to improve. Just over 5 minutes to go in this final part of qualifying. All 10 drivers into the pits. All 10 drivers swapping around their tyres. I think Gasly, Lawson, Hadjar, Hulkenberg were the 4 drivers on scrubbed sets of softs there. So it was new set of tyres for Piastri, Leclerc, Behrman, Antonelli and Russell. They're going to have to go use another fresh set of softs. And Ollie Behrman, actually a tiny little mistake into turn 9, Ollie Behrman. So if he can get over that tiny little mistake into turn 9, not saying it's impossible, but we could see an Ollie Behrman pole position here. Piastri revenge arc incoming. Yeah, Piastri quickest of anybody at the moment. 0.002 of a second separate Piastri and Leclerc at the moment. But I think there is space for a lot of these drivers to improve. It is one of those tracks where the grip comes towards you, particularly because the rain fell down between the sprint and qualifying. The track was very green at the start of the session. Now, coming towards the drivers, every single lap, that rubber going down just makes that track a little bit grippier for the next person to come around. And Hulkenberg is going to be first. Behrman coming out early still. It's come out second of anybody. Charles Leclerc also coming out of the pits as well. I think Behrman's gone a little bit early there. Usually if you want a pole position lap, you go out a little bit later so that you don't have to deal with the traffic. Lando Norris doesn't have that luxury, though. Needs to get out there and make sure a lap time is set. Can't gamble on yellow flags or red flags playing against him. Lando Norris wants to get his lap time in sooner rather than later. Charles Leclerc also deciding to go early as well. So those 4 drivers out on track. Oscar Piastri just getting the thumbs up to go. The visor comes down. And he just has to get everything that's happened over the last few race weekends out of his mind. A clear head for Oscar Piastri as he watches Liam Lawson leave the pit lane just ahead of him and slots himself into the mindset of a championship driver. It's not over yet. Hadjar and Gasly also coming out, but let's look at Nico Hülkenberg, as Hülkenberg is now putting in a lap time. Ollie Behrman comes across the start-finish line to start his final flying lap of the session then. Was phenomenally quick in Q1 and Q2, Ollie Behrman. Can he round it out with a sublime Q3 as well? Charles Leclerc behind him, also looking to improve. It is hundredths, thousandths of a second between the front three. Ollie Behrman has lost a little bit of time in that first sector, though, as Charles Leclerc has actually found a 10th.5 in Sector 1. The Ferrari has come to life underneath Charles Leclerc in this final part of qualifying. Lando Norris has also found a 10th on his teammate and improved. It's not purple, though. Charles Leclerc still quickest of anybody through the first part of the lap. Ollie Behrman coming through the second sector. Nico Hülkenberg, I'll be honest, hasn't really done anything worth writing about. And Ollie Behrman has actually lost a little bit more time in that second sector. I think he's maybe just hit the peak of what the Haas car was able to do last time around. And I don't think he's going to improve in this one. Doesn't. Ollie Behrman stays third fastest. Charles Leclerc, though, and Lando Norris finding time. Leclerc is going to go to provisional pole by almost a 10th of a second to Oscar Piastri. Here comes Lando Norris, though. He's got a little bit of time in hand with a purple second sector, and wow, a purple final sector from Lando Norris as well. Goes to the top of the timing sheets by a considerable margin. That is going to take some beating, and here comes Oscar Piastri to try and beat it. He's a 10th of a second down, though, on Lando Norris just through the first part of the lap. Lando Norris, all the pressure was on him after a mistake in the first lap of Q3. He's come back swinging, has Lando Norris. 0.3 of a second on Charles Leclerc, who was looking very, very fast inside of that Ferrari. Liam Lawson and Isaac Hadjar are also on flying laps either side of Piastri. Kimi Antonelli has just come across the start-finish line as well. George Russell on a flying lap. I think Pierre Gasly too. But here comes Oscar Piastri. He's down in the middle sector as Piastri. I don't think he's going to improve a dramatic amount. Is he going to slot himself into second place, or is he going to start behind Charles Leclerc? Let's see what Piastri can do. Very tight to the line. Stays where he was. Stays third on the grid. He's going to be looking at the rear end of Lando Norris unless somebody else can displace him. Here comes Isaac Hadjar to go fourth fastest, and Liam Lawson also jumped ahead of Ollie Behrman's Haas. So both of the RBs, fourth and fifth at the moment. Gasly comes across the line to go eighth fastest ahead of Nico Hülkenberg. It's currently George Russell, the slowest of the 10 cars out on track. Let's see what he can do as he comes across the line. He's fifth fastest between the two RB cars. And Kimi Antonelli not looking quite as quick as he was earlier on today. Antonelli, pole at the Miami Sprint, P2 in sprint qualifying yesterday. And P2 once again. So much, much better final sector from Kimi Antonelli. Slots into second place. And Charles Leclerc and Oscar Piastri have to settle for the second row of the grid then. And Charles Leclerc had already come into the pits and slotted himself behind the number 2 marker. They had to swap it around inside of the pit lane, because Charles Leclerc is now the third fastest car. And they'd parked him up ready for the interviews. They've now had to swap that around as Kimi Antonelli slots himself into second. So it is a little replay of the front row from yesterday. Lando Norris will start first. Kimi Antonelli beside him in second. Charles Leclerc improves, though. He's up into third, displaced Oscar Piastri, who started third for the sprint race earlier today. And then Hadjar, Russell, Lawson in 5th, 6th, 7th. Ollie Behrman ended up dropping all the way down to 8th place after he couldn't improve in his Haas. So it's an 8th place start for Ollie Behrman, but points certainly on the cards for the Haas team. Pierre Gasly starts in 9th after scoring a point for Alpine earlier on in the sprint. And Nico Hülkenberg starts inside of the top 10 once again, as he did after sprint qualifying yesterday. A little round out just in case you missed it. Fernando Alonso, Alex Albon will start 11th and 12th place. Lewis Hamilton and Lance Stroll will start 13th and 14th. Carlos Sainz, the final driver to drop out of Q2. And the first driver to drop out of Q1 was Max Verstappen. He will start 16th place alongside Carlos Sainz. Esteban Ocon and Franco Colapinto will start 17th and 18th. And Yuki Tsunoda will start 19th place, with Gabriel Bortoleto starting at the back of the pack despite not being able to take part in qualifying. That car does look like it will be back together again. Even though it wasn't quite ready for qualifying, it should be ready to race tomorrow. Thank you guys so much for watching. As I said, if I could ask one favor of you, check out the links in the description. Hit any one of the videos on this channel if you haven't seen them. I've worked really hard on the channel videos recently, so please do check them out. Leave a like over there. Or if you want to, head over to Crash Happy. We're trying to hit 10,000 subscribers on the podcast. As I said, me, Dan No Skill, Mr. V, Mr. Pulse, Formula Duck, we all talk Formula One and non-Formula One things. It's not just a podcast. We also do gaming videos over there. So if you want to see us play Wreckfest or you want to see us play Gartic Phone, that is all over there as well. So please do check that out in the description down below. And I will be live once again tomorrow for the Grand Prix. Max Verstappen starts 16th. Oscar Piastri starts 4th. Lando Norris sitting pretty at the top of the championship and at the top of the timing sheets in qualifying. Can he hold on to it? We'll find out tomorrow.